George Washington did not want to be the first president of the United States, and he said as much many times. He had to be convinced. And in his inaugural address, he even said that. He said he was getting older in age and he wanted to retire because he had too many health conditions. And it's very much debated whether or not he had psychological conditions such as severe depression as well. But there is plenty of evidence to suggest he was psychologically unwell as well. But ultimately, he did decide that he was going to become president because he felt that pressure and felt like the people who were tasked with becoming congressional leaders knew more about public service and things of that nature than he did. So he was relying on them to steer the ship the right way, and he was going to, when necessary, try to provide whatever little guidance he could, but he wasn't really going to dive in and take the lead role in creating laws. A month after his inaugural address, Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, both sent letters thanking him and basically beefing up his self-confidence and self-esteem in the role of president, because they weren't sure yet that he was confident enough in himself to fulfill the role. And of course, he replied back and thanked them for their many, many admirations. And then a couple short weeks after those letters to George Washington, the Congress passed their first law. Now we have to remember, the revolution was still fresh in everybody's mind. There were still suspicions that people who were loyalists to the crown or who were fringe groups who wanted to create their own government within the New World would infiltrate the United States government and try to overthrow it from within. The first piece of legislation was designed to ensure that everyone who served in the United States government, whether it be a judge in the executive branch, in the legislative branch, or even in the states, was committed to the United States and supported the United States. It is the legislation that created the oath of office that's required to be spoken by everyone who's elected to every federal position prior to them taking their position. So for senators would have to say the oath of office before they were allowed to take their seat or receive pay as a senator. Representatives would have to take their oath of office before they could start serving as a representative and join the House of Representatives. And remember, much of the government wasn't set up yet, the way it is today at least. It was very small. So there were very few people they had to include in this first piece of legislation. Now, the Freedom Constitution has been written much more recently and includes many more parts of government than that original first government. And the Freedom Constitution actually has two oaths of offices contained within it, one specific to the executive branch of government and one that is required by every branch of government. While that first oath of office makes references to pretend governments within the United States, the Freedom Constitution specifically says, "I hold no allegiance to any group, organization, interest, or foreign power." So it doesn't matter whether it's in the United States or not, and it doesn't matter whether it's a government or not, because we know non-government entities can influence and overthrow governments just as easily as foreign governments. And we'll actually see this in some of the other early presidents where influencers have actually influenced the form of government to be against the people instead of for the people. So in this first clip in our series, we can see that the very first act by President Washington was an act to commit to an oath of office, but that oath of office didn't properly secure the government against influences that would later harm the people within the United States, whereas the Freedom Constitution has taken that into account and ensures that it doesn't matter whether it's a government or non-government entity. If you serve in the United States military or civil or judicial, you are not allowed to have allegiances to any group, organization, government other than the United States government, and specifically the Constitution of the United States government. The Freedom Founders believe in safety without oppression. I hope to see you in the next video covering George Washington versus the Freedom Constitution.